Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, Maverick family. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. I'm Rick Walker, and we have a stacked show for you tonight. We have Biden, the President of the United States, in Vilnius, mumbling, messing up his words, sleepwalking through another speech where he's trying to rally international public support for the war in Ukraine. We'll show you some highlights. We also have the interest rate issue front and center. Interest rates hiked again today. It's going to result in higher mortgage payments for many people. And mark my words, we're not done with that yet. Inflation is an ongoing problem, an unintended consequence of excessive money printing and money spending. What else do we have? Oh, the prank call to Henry Kissinger. Very revealing. You want to know who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? Well, this might shed a little light on it. What else? Oh, yes. I'm so excited about this. As you know, last night, if you were watching, I caved. He got me. He's convinced me. I'm an absolute convert. We must exile the Knights of Malta. Tonight, we will dig into the Knights of Malta story, and we'll explain why we just can't have them around anymore and what we're going to do about it. And I also produced a little video to kind of get everybody in the mood for what we are just going to have to do. I think it's our duty. So tonight we talk about the plan to exile the Knights of Malta.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, a little technical glitch there, but I'm back. So, first up, NATO. Second day of the NATO summit. And to kind of wrap things up, President Joe Biden addressed a crowd in Vilnius. He was there kind of rallying public support for the war in Ukraine. A lot of cheerleading going on. Talked about the history of Lithuania, its affiliation with NATO, how he was such a super duper guy back around 2004 when Lithuania wanted to get closer to NATO and get under that NATO umbrella. Anyway, some remarks. We've got some highlights here, but as usual, the Prez had a little trouble with his words. Just couldn't quite get past the mumbling.
I had the great honor as United States Senator championing Lithuania and other Baltic states to join NATO in 2004. Wasn't I brilliant doing that? But all kidding aside, think about how it's changed things. But all kidding aside, think about how it's changed things. Think about what's happened. Now, over the last few days, as President of the United States, I had the honor of participating in an historic NATO summit hosted by Lithuania, where we welcomed NATO's newest ally, Finland, and reached agreement to bring Sweden into the alliance as soon as possible. President Erdogan kept his word. We've witnessed your historic journey, and I'm proud to call Lithuania friend, partner, and ally. Ally. Soon, NATO will be the 32nd freestanding, have 32 freestanding members standing together to defend our people and our territory.
Can't get his numbers right.
Beyond all the rest, bound by democratic values to make us strong, and by our sacred oath that an attack against it is a sacred oath. Attack against one is an attack against all, because each member of NATO knows that the strength of our people and the power of our unity cannot be denied.
And he's not joking. That's not
hyperbole. I sound optimistic is because I am. Today, our alliance remains a bulwark of global security and stability, as it's been for more than 7 decades. NATO is stronger, more energized, and yes, more united than ever in its history. Indeed, more vital to our shared future. It didn't happen by accident. It wasn't inevitable. When Putin and his craven lust for land and power unleashed his brutal war on Ukraine, he was betting NATO would break apart. He was betting NATO would break. He thought our unity would shatter at the first testing. He thought democratic leaders would be weak, but he thought wrong. Faced with the threat, the peace and stability of the world, to democratic values we hold dear, to freedom itself, we did what we always do. The United States stepped up, NATO stepped up, our partners in Europe and then the Indo-Pacific stepped up. All across the world, they stepped up. And we're ready. We were ready because we stood together. In the months leading up to the war, as Putin amassed his forces on the Ukrainian border and laid the groundwork for his brutal invasion, I was in constant contact with my fellow leaders of the G7 and the European Union and NATO, constantly. We warned the world what Putin was planning. Even some in Ukraine didn't believe what we had our intelligence community found. We made sure NATO was prepared to deter any aggression against any member state. We pursued intense diplomacy with Russia to avert this terrible war. And when Russian bombs began to fall, we did not hesitate to act. We rallied the world to support the brave people of Ukraine as they defend their liberty and their sovereignty.
Billions of dollars to one of the most corrupt nations on the face of the planet.
Think about what they're doing. After nearly a year and a half
We can't
of
track
Russia's
any
forces
weapons.
committing terrible
that we sent.
atrocities,
We don't know what happened to
including
them.
crimes against humanity. The people of Ukraine remain unbroken.
And we don't know how they ended up on the dark web for sale.
Ukraine remains independent. It remains free. And the United States has built a coalition of more than 50 nations to make sure Ukraine defends itself both now and is able to do it in the future as
We're
well.
ready to fight to the last
Since this war
Ukrainian.
began, I've stood with President Zelensky, as I just spent about an hour with him, both in Washington, in Kyiv, in Hiroshima, and now in Vilnius, to declare to the world what I say again: we will not waver. We will not waver. I mean that. Our commitment to Ukraine will not weaken. We will stand for liberty and freedom today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes.
For liberty and freedom.
We all want this war to end on just terms. Terms that uphold the basic principles of the United Nations Charter that we all signed up to. Sovereignty, territorial integrity.
Territorial integrity.
These are two pillars
Uh-huh.
of peaceful relations among nations. One country cannot be allowed to seize its neighbor's territory by force. Russia could end this war tomorrow by withdrawing its forces from Ukraine, wrecking its international borders, and ceasing its attacks on it, its inhumane attacks on Russia. I mean, by Russia on Ukraine against its children, women and children. Its military. Unfortunately,
Russia's
shown thus far no interest in the diplomatic outcome.
Can't even get his country
Putin
straight.
still wrongly believes that he can outlast Ukraine. He can't believe it's their land, their country, and their future. And even after all this time, Putin still doubts our staying power. He's still making a bad bet that the conviction and the unity among the United States and our allies and partners will break down. He still doesn't understand that our commitment, our values, our freedom is something he can never, never, ever, ever walk away from. It's who we are. I mean, it's who we are.
He means it.
It's who we are.
He means it so
Throughout
much.
this
He keeps
horrific
saying
war,
over and
the people
over.
of Lithuania, together with our Baltic brethren, have been among the most fierce champions of Ukraine's right to a future
Come
of its
on,
own
man.
choosing. One that is
Means it.
free.
He's not joking.
Because you lived so long with freedom denied. Many of you who are older know better than anyone how precious the right to determine your own future is. Precious to people everywhere. Not just in Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, Georgia, and all the places around the world where people continue to fight to make their voices heard. So my message to all of you tonight is keep it up, keep it going. Keep reminding the world of hope that Lithuania embodies, and that's what you embody, hope in this country.
Okay, so. Oh, wait a second here. I have to rewind that a little bit. Let me just play that because he's not joking.
That's what you embody, hope in this country. Oh, I really mean it.
He means it.
I'm not joking.
He's not joking.
I mean this sincerely.
He means it sincerely.
We must never forget how much this matters and never, never give up on a better tomorrow. The defense of freedom is not the work of a day or a year.
Right.
It's the calling of our lifetime, of all time. We are steeled for the struggle ahead. Our unity will not falter, I promise you. Woo. Folks.
Unity. He talks about unity. They talk about a new rules-based international order. They keep using that phrase over and over and over again. And then in the next breath, he uses the word sovereignty, which is a reference to nationalism, which is a reference to independent nation states. But with NATO, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the Klaus Schwab vision of the future, which I can see Joe Biden shares, sovereignty does not really mesh with those other concepts, those other goals. When you're talking about unity among nations through NATO, the UN, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, all of these nation states now in lockstep, all succumbing, all bending the knee, all adhering to the new rules-based international order, what you really have is globalism. That isn't about the sovereignty of individual nation states. That's about collectivism, international collectivism, globalism, a homogeneous approach to governance, a one world government as part of a new world order. It's as plain as day. That is largely what this conflict is about. They are pushing and pressuring Russia to bend the knee and accept the rules-based international order as dictated to other countries by the globalist puppet masters. Through that, you do not get actual sovereignty, because even though you have elections in individual states, the people do not actually get to vote for the people who control the new rules-based international order. And whoever is controlling that controls the world, or at least right now, about half of the world. And so when Joe Biden says that a country like Russia or any large, even superpower, doesn't have the right to invade another country or dictate to another country how they're going to be governed, he is being disingenuous. Has the United States never done anything like that? Or have they ever done anything like that? It seems like they stick their nose in all over the world, doesn't it? I believe they have something like 800 military bases all over the world in various countries. Do you think that all of those countries just are voluntarily doing what they want? Do you think that they actually have true full sovereignty over what they are doing when you have a superpower like the United States with military bases in their countries? This is a protection racket, guys. That's the reality of the situation. And in fact, what he's not addressing in this speech is the fact that there were peace deals on the table that were initially signed, ready to go. The peace deal that was tabled, shown to those leaders from Africa when they recently visited Vladimir Putin, showed that the Russians were prepared to broker peace with Ukraine at that time and let Ukraine remain a sovereign nation, but neutral, not in the control of the United States and not in the control of Russia. A neutral nation state, a buffer state, if you will, which is what Russia wanted from the very beginning anyway. A country sitting there that isn't being manipulated by either side, that is neutral, with a limited military force, just enough to assert its sovereignty, but really not controlled by either side, sitting there in a position of balance, a buffer zone, so that NATO isn't sitting there right on Russia's border. But that's what we're ending up with as a de facto NATO member, even though Ukraine has not been approved as a new NATO member. Instead, now what do we see? We see more nation states being added. Now, Finland, and soon, through formality, Sweden as well, increasing the amount of total border area that Russia will now need to defend actively against actual NATO countries right up on their border. We're being told this is supposed to make these other countries safer and keep us all safer because NATO is stronger and there is unity through this collectivist approach to global governance. I would describe it as a communo-fascistic ideology that supports this New World Order concept. But does it really make us safer? Does it make those nation states safer? I don't think Russia was looking at invading Sweden. They weren't looking at invading Finland. But now they're worried about it, especially with the conflict ongoing in Ukraine, and now with these countries becoming NATO nation states, part of this collectivist, globalist New World Order. They're representative of part of the existential threat against Russia, right up against the border. And the United States, for Joe Biden to sit there and say that Russia doesn't have the right to assert its sovereignty or protect its national interests in that regard is, again, it's kind of a fib. The reality of the situation is when you're living right next to a superpower like Russia or the United States, or for that matter, even China, you have to live with the reality that you're living right next to, a Godzilla or some sort of a gigantic, monstrous power. And you have to live with the reality of that. If you threaten that superpower in any way or allow the threat to that superpower to come into your geographic space and your sphere of existence and present a threat, that superpower is likely to respond, as we have seen. And that is what we've been saying, or what I've been saying on this program from the very beginning of all of this. Ukraine was flipped in 2014. It went from being sort of Russian controlled or influenced to US controlled and influenced, and they shifted gears. And we're seeing the disastrous results of that now. Doing that, having Ukraine flip sides, essentially, and become certainly not neutral anymore, and to abandon its relations with Russia, hasn't made Ukraine any safer, has it? Look at what has happened. A lot of dead people, folks, and a lot of cheerleading. And keep in mind that everything you just heard in that speech was all designed, all written, all verbalized in an effort to get people to support more killing. This war didn't have to start. It could have ended many, many months ago, but they sent Boris Johnson over there to make it clear to Zelensky that there could be no peace deal, even though one had been brokered. And they said, no way. Could have ended then. Biden is sitting there saying, oh, Putin could end this conflict right now. Yeah, all they have to do is just give up and go home and give NATO and the United States everything it wants. But on the other side, they don't want to negotiate, and they don't want what had been negotiated as a peace deal. So again, it's disingenuous. In a way, it's kind of a lie. And why haven't they allowed Ukraine to join NATO? Why haven't they fast-tracked it? Oh, they said they streamlined it yesterday, didn't they? But in reality, it was a lot of murky language. The path to membership isn't really clear, and I'm certain, at least I believe, my opinion, that it's because the war is not going as well as NATO and the United States had planned. It's grinding on and on and on. So they're not convinced, they're not even sure themselves that they can actually win this thing. And so they're hedging their bets. If Ukraine loses, then they walk away. No great loss for the West. Think about it. If they're not successful in reaching their objective, whatever that is, whether it's to truly just push Russia out of Ukraine and reclaim Crimea and Donbass, whatever it is their objective is, or maybe it's to march all the way to Moscow. We've seen them admit that they want regime change in Russia. They want Putin gone. But if they fail and Russia prevails in Ukraine, NATO just walks away. They don't lose anything other than some older weapons that got blown up, and they come away with a lot of new data collected from testing their modern weapon systems on the battlefield, and a lot of new knowledge about Russian military tactics, which they're observing every single day, gathering information. So they get all of that. But as for the country itself, do you think they really care? They care, but only strategically. If they really cared, folks, this war wouldn't be on right now, in my belief. They would have negotiated a settlement a long time ago. They do want to expand, though, and as I said last night, it's my belief as well, and I think it's supported by empirical evidence. All you need to do is just look. They're not conducting warfare in a traditional sense anymore. NATO has been expanding, taking over countries one at a time through information warfare, coups, political coercion, political influence, political campaigns, all designed to get these different countries to fall into line and fall under the NATO umbrella, adding another country and another country and another country, and now Finland and now Sweden, and then eventually Ukraine, 3 more countries added to NATO without firing a shot. Well, except in the case of Ukraine, where they're taking shots at the Russians, but that's because they're not firing any shots in Ukraine to take over Ukraine. They're firing shots in Ukraine to take over Russia. That's my assessment. Now, tomorrow night, I believe it's tomorrow, Scott Ritter will be here, former UN weapons inspector, and we'll get his take on all this. He's far more knowledgeable than I am. Have great respect for what Scott has to say. Lori will be along with Scott Ritter, and Russia's ambassador to the United Nations will be here as well. Dmitry Polyansky will return to this program as part of the Polyansky, Ritter, Spencer, Walker roundtable discussion on Ukraine, the conflict there. And NATO will get I guess, their assessment of what happened, and what the importance was, or what the significant highlights were, the takeaways from this NATO summit that has been unfolding over the past 2 days. So really looking forward to that. And who knows what new developments will emerge tomorrow. There's always something new. And then there's that Sweden deal, right? Sweden being added to NATO. But the question is, Turkey was, I guess, apparently opposed to that. But at the summit, that position was reversed, and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan was speaking during today's NATO forum in Vilnius. We have a little bit of that queued up here for you as well, because he's asked to give the inside scoop on what it was that was done to change the position of Turkey to allow Sweden into the NATO fold. Here we go.
The NATO Public Forum. Jake, first let me congratulate you on convincing Turkey to allow Sweden into NATO. But since we are among friends here, can you tell us a bit about what was the deal there?
Well, first, really, this was an effort led by the Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, with Sweden and Turkey, and the joint statement that they put out, I think, really reflected the positive inclination of Sweden to step up and address some of Turkey's concerns, and then Turkey's declaration that they would, in fact, move Sweden's accession in the parliament for ratification, and we hope that will happen swiftly. The U.S. in this was simply trying to help encourage and support the effort to get that agreement, to get that statement out. And this was not about bargaining or horse trading. This was fundamentally about President Biden making the case to President Erdogan, following his consultations with Prime Minister Kristersson, about why it was so important that we send a positive signal at Vilnius, and why it was so important that we get Sweden into the alliance because of the contribution they can make to Euro-Atlantic security. So thinking of it in terms of a deal from the point of view of the United States, that's not how we see it. We see it as the U.S., just playing a role in supporting, reinforcing, urging, cajoling, encouraging the outcome that we got yesterday. And it's a great outcome for the alliance. It's a great outcome from the point of view of Washington and the United States.
Well, thank you for this. And I'm sure without Biden pushing there, President pushing there, it wouldn't have happened. In your response, you didn't mention F-16.
Well, the issue on the F-16 is one, I think if you look at the public record over the course of the past several months, maybe even longer, President Biden has been clear that he has supported the provision of F-16s to Turkey. And that has been a clear and consistent position of his, both publicly and privately. And he has been working with the Congress on it. He continues to consult closely with the Congress. And in the context of that consultation, is eager to get that across the finish line. So the fact of his policy support for this and his motivation to make this happen, working with our congressional leaders in both the Senate and the House, that has gone on a track before there was a deal between Sweden and Turkey, and it will continue after there's been a deal between Sweden and Turkey.
It's not easy. Good luck on that. But this was really a fantastic news going into this summit. On Ukraine, we have seen and witnessed some of the disappointments of Ukraine from the result of the summit, and also in the corridors you hear a lot of disappointment about the result. Why couldn't the summit? Why couldn't you have gone further?
Well, I'm not sure what it means exactly to go further. I think there was broad consensus in the alliance that bringing Ukraine into NATO now, in the middle of the war, would mean NATO would be at war with Russia. And I think across the alliance, there was a view that NATO ending up in a war with Russia at this moment. On the issue of bringing Ukraine into NATO now, I think there was broad consensus first. Second, I think there was broad consensus in the alliance that removing the membership action plan as some kind of obstacle or barrier to Ukraine coming in was something everybody could sign on to. And then third, there was broad consensus that Ukraine has made substantial steps along the reform path, both in security sector reform and in democratic reforms, but there are more steps to take as well, as it fulfills the requirements for membership that all allies who ultimately come into the alliance had to fulfill to be invited to join. So then there was, as there always is, and you know this better than anyone, having served in a number of significant diplomatic roles, the negotiation over text, people move words around, they choose different words, but the fundamental thrust of what the NATO communique reflects in those elements I just described, I think had broad-based support across the leaders. And that's why yesterday at the end of the session, they were able to come out with one voice and make those comments. I know President Zelensky expressed disappointment with the wording, would have liked to push things further, and I understand that from his perspective. But I think from the alliance's perspective, the logic that I've just described was the one that could achieve a broad-based consensus given the number of views. And I'd make one other point, which is President Biden has really stressed the importance of unity in the alliance in the face of Russia's aggression. And he has noted many times that President Putin was betting that NATO unity would crack, that the alliance would wither, that divisions would be exposed. And that has been a bad bet for the 505 days of the war, and we believe it will continue to be a bad bet. But unity doesn't mean every ally sees every issue exactly the same way. What it means is that we can come together from somewhat different tactical perspectives to join in a common strategic vision and strategic approach. And there, I think there was broad alignment with respect to the question of Ukraine's place in NATO. And the document specifically says Ukraine's future is in NATO. And it specifically says that the alliance will work with Ukraine along that pathway. And last point, as Ukraine works along the pathway towards an invitation to membership, the United States and several other NATO allies and partners are going to step up today to launch a process to provide Ukraine with the security commitments it needs in the period ahead for the long term with respect to military assistance, economic assistance, and the other tools necessary for it to be able to defend against Russian aggression and deter future Russian aggression.
In other words, they're going to send a whole bunch more money. And it's going to come out of our pockets. And just to hang on a second here. Where's this going? Sorry. Okay. So while they're talking about sovereignty and how it's not proper for a power like Russia to assert its or to flex its muscle to defend its territory against potential threats like NATO on its doorstep, what did the United States do? Just within the last 24 hours, I guess, or so? Well, they stopped a Cuban submarine, I guess. Let's take a look at this. This is just being reported now. And it's kind of ironic when you consider the similarities between, I think, what Russia is experiencing with Ukraine on its doorstep and what the United States was dealing with back in the 1960s with the Cuban Missile Crisis. And now this from ABC News tonight reporting that the Cuban Foreign Ministry called the stop by a U.S. nuclear-powered submarine at the U.S. naval base in Guantanamo Bay a provocative escalation. The U.S. nuclear-powered submarine, the USS Pasadena, stopped at the naval base in Guantanamo earlier this month. Okay, so this is giving us the timeline now. And the Cuban Foreign Ministry issued this statement, and they say, what else? A U.S. Navy spokesperson told the media that it was a scheduled logistics stop as the submarine transits to Colombia to participate in a multinational maritime exercise. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs strongly rejects the arrival of a nuclear-powered submarine in Guantanamo Bay on July 5th, 2023, to stay until July 8th at the U.S. military base located there, which is a provocative escalation of the United States, whose political or strategic motives are not known. The statement from the Cuban Foreign Ministry reads, "The presence of a nuclear submarine there at this moment makes it imperative to wonder what is the military reason behind this action in this peaceful region of the world." So the U.S. government, it says here, notified the Cuban government that the submarine would stop in Guantanamo on the morning of July 5th. And they're saying that this is not without precedent. But on the other side of the island, a Russian naval vessel arrived at Havana's port on Tuesday. The naval vessel, a Russian training ship named Perekop, entered the port carrying humanitarian aid. This is in quotations here, humanitarian aid, as well as equipment delivered directly from the Russian Museum of St. Petersburg for multimedia exhibitions at the Museum of Fine Arts of Havana. Or could be something else. Jeez, I tell you, man, somebody needs to take all the toys away from all these people. That's all I'm telling you. They can't get along. They're like kids playing with very, very dangerous weapons. Yeah. Trudeau. He was, yes, here we go. Hang on. Okay, so let's get Trudeau's statement here out of Vilnius as well today, and then we'll move on to other news. This is, he was talking today about budgets to NATO, Canada increasing its spending, all of this on the, on a day when the interest rate in Canada, the key interest rate, was increased to a full 5%. It's going to make life more difficult for all Canadians as he continues to spend, and double down, triple down, quadruple down on Canada's commitment to spending even more in Ukraine. Here's Justin Trudeau.
Part of the G7 commitment is that they will be coming.
I have a follow-up question from my colleague, John Woodward. The Canada-Ontario housing benefit was being used in the city of Toronto to help top up rent for low-income people.
Oh, yes, the homeless question.
And money has run out in Toronto due to extremely high rent prices, and there are instances of refugees being forced to sleep on the street, becoming homeless. How can your government assure refugees that they'll have somewhere to stay if the rental market continues to skyrocket as it is in Toronto?
Canada is a country that welcomes in people fleeing violence and persecution from all around the world. Over the past few years, we saw a spike in irregular migrants crossing through between border crossings. The federal government was there with hundreds of millions of dollars in support to Quebec and Ontario primarily, but also to other parts of the country to ensure that there were capacities to support those refugees. We will continue to. We will work with municipalities and provinces on supports as necessary to make sure that Canada continues to support people who are coming to Canada.
So, what have we been saying for years? The immigration rate is so high in Canada that there isn't enough housing. We don't have enough capacity, even in our healthcare system, in our school systems, in our social services, our social safety nets. There isn't enough money, not enough resources. The government's not providing enough. And they've just continued to let the migration increase and increase and increase, which is adding to the inflation problem, no question. But Trudeau does not care. Today, again, the interest rate increasing to 5%. And we'll come back to Trudeau here for just a moment before we go to the officials from the Bank of Canada.
Canada raised its baseline rate to 5% today. That's the highest in over 2 decades. How concerned are you that Canadians are going to start defaulting on mortgages and other debts?
Look, this is not the news that any Canadian wanted to receive this morning. This is also a challenge that I've had conversations with fellow leaders from here in Europe and around the world on. The cost of living is a real challenge everywhere around the world, with record high inflation, with interest rates continuing to go up. People around the world are facing significant challenges. That's why in Canada, we've stepped up with targeted support for people who most need it at this moment. So last week, we delivered the grocery rebate to 11 million Canadians. Canadians in provinces where the federal pricing backstop applies will be receiving their climate check this week. And next week, the Canada Child Benefit is going to be increasing with the increases in the cost of living. On top of the housing benefit and other benefits we're delivering, we are very much focused on supporting Canadians, even as we create great jobs and grow the economy.
Enough. It's not, it doesn't work that way. You need, the best a government can ever do is create conditions that are favorable to prosperity. When they try to control everything, it becomes, you may get a result, but it can only be temporary. And that's what his approach continues to be. Throw money at it. Just throw money at it. And not enough money to actually address the serious problem itself. The true solution is economic policies that are conducive to growth and prosperity. But what he has done is print too much money, spend too much money, fuel inflation, try to get that under control with higher interest rates, now at 5%. That's the base rate, okay? What does that mean? It means that interest rates on mortgages, much higher. Interest rates on credit cards, much higher. Interest rates on car loans, much higher than that. And we're not done. We've kind of been in this position before. I remember, man, back in whatever year it was, I remember interest rates on car loans being at like 14, 15, 16, 18%. In the past, when governments had been trying to combat inflation, it's designed to hurt you. It's designed to prevent you from spending money, so you have to do with less. It's degrowth. When we need growth, the solution to the problem is to grow out of it, to be more productive, to produce more, to put people to work producing more and being productive so that they produce more than they consume in totality. Therefore, adding value to the economy and enriching the people around them through an overall collective output, which hopefully has been achieved through individual choices and a free market. But that's not what we have. In fact, I was talking to someone in the auto industry today who was talking about that very thing. You know, the auto companies now completely controlled basically by government through government programs, grants, tax subsidies, regulation, requirements that they have to meet in order to get government grants, which they need because all the companies are now addicted to them. And then if you talk about the dealers, they've had inventory shortages since the pandemic, which still linger to some degree today. That means that all the dealers basically are able to sell pretty much all of the inventory they get in. There still isn't really enough new vehicle inventory to satisfy the market entirely. So it's a seller's market. That means people pay more for new cars than they might otherwise if there was an ample supply, less supply, higher prices. And just like in any good socialized collectivist economy, people are now have been conditioned to accept wait times in order to get a new vehicle. You can't just walk into a dealership now and pick from stuff off the lot very often. Most dealerships, you have to go in and kind of order a vehicle, and then you're conditioned to sit and wait. And you're not likely to get any discounts on the price because all the dealers basically are able to sell everything they can get their hands on anyway. So they don't need to discount it, because if you don't buy it, the next guy through the door will. And that means there's less competition because all the dealers basically are able to sell whatever they can get their hands on. And if consumers can't get one model or one brand, they go next door to the other dealership and buy a different brand because the marketplace has to be satisfied with whatever supply that happens to be on hand. This has all the earmarks. This is the hallmark of a government planned economy. You have to get in line and wait because supply is rationed through the system, through the supply chain itself, because the government is controlling everything. And we still haven't recovered, and I don't know if we will in anytime soon, from the production restrictions that were imposed during the pandemic. It's like a giant economic hangover. It's a serious, serious problem. At least it is in my estimation. I mean, it's not like we're dying, but it's not leading to prosperity. It's just leading to more pain. Here's the Bank of Canada Governor, Tiff Macklem, explaining why they increased the key interest rate in Canada today. And make no mistake, folks, this is the situation you're facing in the US as well. Not quite to the same degree that we are here in Canada, but I think it's coming for you guys down there, and all of you viewers on the US side. Hold on to your wallets. Here's the bank governor explaining.
Va dépasser nos prévisions de janvier et d'avril. It's a similar story in Canada. Growth has been surprisingly strong, and the economy remains in excess demand.
Yeah.
Consumer spending on services remains robust. And while spending on many goods that are typically sensitive to interest rates has slowed.
Let me just stop there for a moment. You see, he's acknowledging that demand is strong. That means people have money, or maybe they don't even have the money really, but they're willing to still borrow money to buy because they have need and or want for various goods and services. He doesn't want that because the supply of goods and services, well, specifically goods, has diminished. That's increasing inflation. People still want to eat. They still want various consumer goods that they need to live day to day, but they need to cool the economy off. So rather than do what I'm suggesting, which is to find ways to increase production and increase productivity, to increase the supply of goods and services, which would reduce prices while making everyone better off and increasing overall prosperity and raising the standard of living for everyone, they're taking the opposite approach here. He's saying there's like excess demand, so they need to crush the demand. Well, how do you crush the demand? Increase the interest rates, make money more expensive, put people out of work. Increasing the interest rates also makes it more expensive for businesses to operate. When you make the money more expensive, yeah, it does cool off the economy. People stop spending. or they might even lose their house if their interest rates are higher than they can afford when they renew their mortgages. That's why we're asking these questions. What happens next? If people can't afford that, they'll lose their houses, they'll default on mortgages. This kind of approach can lead to actual economic collapse. And then they turn around and say, well, we're going to help you out with a grocery rebate. Yeah, well, a lot of good a grocery rebate does you if you can't afford to pay your mortgage or your rent.
It has not slowed by as much as we expected. The housing market has also seen some pickup in activity. Several factors appear to be supporting household spending. The labor market remains tight, even if there are some signs of easing. The unemployment rate has increased slightly, but remains historically low, and wage growth has been between 4% and 5%, higher than what is consistent with price stability. Many households also accumulated savings since the beginning of the pandemic. Some households have cut back on spending because inflation and higher interest rates have eaten into their budgets, and some are being severely squeezed. But for many, larger savings may be acting as a buffer and supporting consumer spending. Rapid population growth is contributing to both supply and demand in the economy. Newcomers to Canada are entering the labor force, easing labor shortages. But at the same time, they add to consumer spending and the demand for housing.
And they're sleeping on the streets or pushing other people out of housing because the pricing goes up and those with the most money can get it. And we're seeing an increase in the number of homeless people out there, and it is terrible. And that's why, as I said, we're looking at doing some special reports on the homeless issue here in various Canadian communities, and maybe even dip down and do something down on the U.S. side as well. But we're going to take a look at the homeless issue in more depth in the days and weeks ahead. This is not a good situation, folks. The economy is not as healthy as they let on that they're leading you to believe. And you don't need to believe them because you're experiencing it. You can make up your own, you can assess for yourself based on your own personal situation. Some sectors are, still robust. Automotive is still, they're making money. And if you have a job at a factory or whatever, you're probably doing very well because they just get all that money that they just, racked up on the federal credit card at taxpayer expense. The money's still being spent to retrofit all of these factories and electrify the auto industry. So all that investment, that debt spending, the money's still being spent. So people are working and it's fueling things that way. But already we're seeing, such heavy duty negative repercussions of these economic policies, increase in homelessness. Now they're going to put more people out of work. You're going to see an increase in the unemployment rate. And I fear that if this isn't managed a little more responsibly, you're going to see people start to default on mortgages potentially. And if we get any kind of chain reaction from that, the entire economy could be in really serious trouble. Brace yourself. They're pushing all the right buttons for a recession. In fact, I would argue we're probably already in a kind of a recession. So it could, be a really deep recession, maybe even worse. I don't even want to use the other word because I don't want it to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Later on in the broadcast, we're going to discuss a strategy to exile the Knights of Malta. And in order to get you in the mood for that discussion, I prepared this.
Exile. The Knights of Malta. Maverick News. Join us. The world is watching.
You gotta go. They gots to go. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Henry Kissinger. He's getting up there in years. He's the latest victim of a prank by a couple of Russian comedians. I think they're radio personalities. Anyway, maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't. But if you want to know who actually blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, you probably don't need to read the Seymour Hersh work on this. You probably don't need to speculate much. Maybe you just need to assess what Henry Kissinger, who used to be part of the Nixon administration, advising on foreign policy, getting up there in years, but he's been around the block a few times, still kind of connected, sort of knows what's going on. And they're posing in this phone call they make to Kissinger as Vladimir Zelensky, leader of Ukraine. And they ask him about the Nord Stream pipeline. This is actually funny, and yet at the same time, revealing and even a little bit scary to me.
That's so real. What do you think? Is Russia behind of explosion of Nord Stream 2? How do you think? Who is behind of explosion of Nord Stream 2? Who is guilty? How do you think?
I frankly have thought you were.
Really? You think that we? No.
But I didn't blame you. I would not say that as a criticism.
Oh my. So there's Kissinger saying, this is Vovin and Lexus. Those are the two comedians. They're Russian. And they got him to answer the question. And what does he say? He thinks he's talking to Vladimir Zelensky, and he's saying, I thought you blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Oh, yeah. Hang on a second here. Henry Kissinger was part of the Nixon administration. And let me see if I can find. Yeah, here we go right here. Maybe I don't have it. Talking about Vietnam. Yeah, here it is here. You have to listen very carefully. I'll play some of this. I hope the quality is okay. This is just an example of the United States attitude toward foreign policy. Well, that was the case in the 60s, or the 70s rather. This was back in 72, Vietnam War. And yeah, I found it here. It just reminded me of this. So all those tapes that kind of came out after from the Nixon administration, and you may recall the Watergate scandal. Well, these are, there's just more tapes that were released over time. And this is Henry Kissinger advising and discussing the situation in Vietnam with Nixon at the time. And listen to the way that Nixon talks about the strategy that they're employing in Vietnam and what they want to do and how they want to bomb them. And Kissinger says, basically kick the shit out of the North Vietnamese. And they've got the upcoming election on, top of mind as they're talking about this.
Hello. Oh, Mr. President. Are you at dinner? No. But you are.
Just small talk before they get to talk about, bombing the crap out of people.
She said that when she talked to her, she said, Mrs. DeBrin says, well, what kind of it, before she marries this subject, I want to give you a gift, you like furs and things. She said, well, of course, it's all straight. Then, but of course, it's very gracious. And then Nixon raised this point. I just hope it won't hurt the visit. Mr. Brennan squeezed her hand and said with almost tears in her eyes, I hope not, I hope not.
He was Secretary of
We got that
State.
message across. You mentioned Vietnam. Oh, hell yes, what you talked about.
Both
My
Nixon
wife,
and Gerald Ford.
Right on, how she'd do it, right on the nose.
Yeah, just have a little small talk. Then we'll get to the, bomb. Talk about bombing people.
Did you get Laird off his ass?
Oh, yes. We're going to do two, I think we're going to hit two or at least maybe three targets with P-52 tomorrow.
Can hit two or
We
three
are sending
targets.
his, right?
Eggs, yes. But I would prefer if he could stay till Saturday night.
All right.
Because that way I can have a chat with him Saturday afternoon.
All right. Fine. The important thing is that if a message needs to get out to them, time is wasting. Connolly called me tonight. He had an interesting call from Arnold Hammer, whom you know, of course. You know, Arnold Hammer?
Yeah, I know who he is.
Well, he's the great art connoisseur, the Russian and so forth, from Los Angeles. And he's generally pro-Russian. He said, just tell the president that I know the Russians. He says he must not back down. He must put it to him now. He can get away with it now where he can't later. Very interesting point. And that's what Connolly said. Connolly said, President, I beg you, don't. He says, do something now. And his way upon Connolly said we may have 3 or 4 days. He even would favor a blockade this week.
But then I think we should be because
And then listen, he's going to make reference to this upcoming election.
We are trailing all of the by plane. And Border has put some submarines out there. And
Submarines out there.
That's fine, I know.
And I think this blockade has to be.
But I think in the blockade, let me say, this may not be the time. But there will come a time we have to do it. Say,
gotta blockade them.
We've offered everything, like we offer prisoners for deadline, and they turn it down. Then about 2 weeks before the election, we blockade them.
2 weeks before the election, blockade them.
And that would have enormous public support.
Generate public support.
Maybe earlier.
Well, earlier, of course, if we come that far along the game, but I'm thinking if the damn thing drags out that long.
Right. Border, I talked to Border, just about to do this.
Right.
And he was briefing members of the
Hard to hear him.
Senate all day today.
Yeah.
And he said this is the best move he remembers since early 67.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said this is nothing like Laos or Someday
Or Cambodia.
or Cambodia.
Laos,
They're all
Cambodia. Just
It's
bomb them all.
interesting that your conversation with Max Frankel, that he would see it that way. What do you think got to him? We did do it well, or maybe, Frankel probably, of course, Frankel's very interested in Israel. He just may know that what the most significant thing that's happened is what I said yesterday, as I'm sure you realize, because that put it to the Russians. As Haig says, nobody's ever done it that before.
Nobody has ever called it the way it is. And if it had been done 7 years ago, this war would be over. And this is why I favor so much deportation of the Atlantic move. We are very safe in saying that if they go, I let them leave a little longer. We'll see what happens. they are afraid that we're coming after them next.
Yeah,
Uh,
7 years.
that's
Got to be over.
a problem. Now, so I think,
You know, I noticed one thing tonight in the Star. May not mean, but it said that all these tanks were knocked out by B-52s. I thought that Haig said they were knocked out by
the smallest percentage will get knocked out by B-52.
I see. Well,
There's one area where
you know, you can imagine the press though trying to make it appear that the South Vietnamese have done a damn thing.
there's no way a B-52 can knock out a tank except by accident.
Yeah, I know that.
By the tank being in the area, it's being bombed.
Right.
The B-52 would never be used to go after the tank that's attacking.
Of course.
4/5 of the tanks were knocked out by the South Vietnamese in the MR1.
B-52 bombers talking about taking out tanks, bombing the shit out of them. But doing it in a way, and just so the timing is right, so that they build up public support. Henry Kissinger, responsible for a lot of death in his time, yet at the same time, a lot of experience there. And he has warned about nuclear escalation and a possible nuclear war. As you know, this whole thing in Ukraine possibly escalating into a third world war, walking that back after, some time. But, he knows how risky all of this is, and then got duped by these comedians. They duped George Bush a while back, too. We played that. It was actually kind of funny watching that. This one, not as funny, but very revealing. And I think it's almost a sad state of affairs, really, when the people doing the best investigative journalism are comedians. A little weird. And I think revealing in 2023. Comedians doing the work of investigative journalists and getting better results than most.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So, a brief comment on that news anchor for the BBC over in Britain. Police saying there's no evidence that a BBC presenter who allegedly paid a teenager for sexually explicit photos committed a crime. That's what London police are saying today. The broadcaster's wife publicly identified him for the first time as veteran news anchor Hugh Edwards. Metropolitan Police have decided to take no additional action against him. They spoke with the alleged victim and the person's parents. The parents have told the media last week that Edwards had been allowed to remain on air after the mother complained to the BBC back in May that he paid this young woman, the girl, £35,000, which amounts to about $45,000 US, which started back in 2020. She was 17 years old at the time. So this story has been leading the headlines over in Britain all week and has led to a scandal in the BBC. The age of consent, I believe, over in Britain is, 14 or 16? In any event, the girl was of the age of consent to have sexual relations or consensual sex, but the law as written in Britain is such that, yeah, the age of consent is 16. But if you possess indecent images of anyone under 18, you can be charged with a crime. So that's what was at issue here from a legal standpoint, not necessarily a moral one. But yeah, they're saying no additional action will be taken against him. So that guy ice skates away from that one. And oh yes, what was going on with Kevin Spacey today? The prosecution, I know today, in the case of Kevin Spacey and his sex charges, the prosecution rested their case. I know that's what happened. So now it's up to the defense to lay out their case. So I know that happened in his ongoing trial. Keep your eyes open, and we will too. We'll keep you updated on that as time goes on. Also, Ray Epps. Who is Ray Epps? I mean, he's that guy who has been at the center of all that controversy because of, the January 6th incident. Well, now he's filing, or he's taking legal action against Fox News. So a lot of people think that Ray Epps was a government plant, not a pro-Trump protester. But I bring up the NBC News website here to show you that they are identifying him as a Trump supporter. Ray Epps, right on the lead of the story. Ray Epps, a Trump supporter who became the focus of right-wing conspiracy theories, they say, after he protested in Washington on January 6th, has filed a defamation lawsuit against Fox News and Tucker Carlson for claiming he was an undercover FBI agent who helped provoke what they're calling the riot on January 6th. Yeah, well, it was certainly a protest that got out of hand, and some people did do some things they should not have done. But compared to some other things we've seen, it was not the insurrection that they're making it out to be. That is for sure. So in this lawsuit, Epps says that Fox News told a fantastical story that turned into a years-long campaign against him, and he's looking for damages. This is going to be an interesting case. So this lawsuit now comes after the settlement between Fox News and the Dominion Voting Systems Company. And I think that this will be a really interesting one because you can look at it a couple of different ways, right? If I don't know if Ray Epps is in a no-lose situation, like because if he wasn't a government agent and the accusations were not accurate, then he has a strong case, and he would be able to prove that with evidence in court, you would think, come out successful, and get a huge settlement. So he would win in that scenario. If he was a government agent involved in something like this, if that's actually true, I would say that Fox News might still come out on the losing side, and Ray Epps might still come away with a victory because he would, in theory anyway, wouldn't you think that the government would provide cover for him and support so that no matter what, they would cover up evidence. The government doesn't want to be seen to have been involved in that fashion in this incident. It would be extremely embarrassing to the government. So the government has the ability to wash away evidence, to create documents, even identification. I would think that they would run cover for the guy. And in that case, anything presented in court would support the Ray Epps version of the story. Now, that might sound conspiratorial. I'm just speculating. So, but, either side of that coin, Epps comes out the winner. The only way that he loses is if Fox News was right, he is a government agent, and the government throws him under the bus, in which case the government is going to look bad anyway. So do you think they're going to let that happen? Pretty weird, strange situation, very interesting case. I guess we'll have to sit back, wait, see how it plays out.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, also, we know that tonight Russia's defense ministry is saying that Wagner troops are surrendering their weapons to the military. So, yeah, they're handing over their weapons. This comes, how long ago was that now? Was that a week and a half ago that we saw the Wagner troops heading toward Moscow in a convoy, which was described by Putin himself as a mutiny, described by others as an attempted coup. So these actions come amid continued uncertainty about the fate of Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin. There have been some people in the West saying they think he's dead. Some prominent military people, intelligence people in the West saying Prigozhin is dead. We don't know. I guess he hasn't been seen for a little while. So they've turned over a bunch of different weapons, including 2,000 pieces of equipment such as tanks, rocket launchers, heavy artillery, air defense systems, along with over 2,500 metric tons of munitions and more than 20,000 firearms, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So this comes following the statement back on Monday from the Kremlin saying that Prigozhin and 34 of his top officers met with Vladimir Putin June 29th. That meeting took place 5 days after the unusual, whatever you call it, mutiny, rebellion, convoy, temper tantrum. I don't know what it really, I don't know how to characterize it, but yeah. And so now we don't know where Prigozhin is. We haven't seen him for a while. And these troops are, being moved into Belarus. Prigozhin was told he could go to Belarus and be safe there. Not sure how this is all really playing out. And I said, if I was Prigozhin, no matter what kind of deal you think you got, you better be sleeping with one eye open, or you're going to get yourself into some hot water. And I don't know where he is now, but I can't honestly put a lot of stock in any of the reports coming out of just any reports anywhere, period, until I see hard evidence of the existence of something. There's so much speculation going on, and so many people flapping their gums without really knowing, I think. So when we're seeing military leaders in the West saying, we think Prigozhin is dead, maybe, maybe not. I wouldn't embrace that. I'd wait. So I'm going to wait. I suggest we all just wait just a little bit to see what other information emerges. Mike Lindell, mainstream media, having a field day right now with what's going on with him, because it looks like his sales have slumped. And he, according to some mainstream media outlets tonight, he's auctioning off some of his company's equipment, forklifts, desks, cubicles, office equipment, probably even staplers. I don't know. So apparently they lost $100 million in revenue, the MyPillow company, because a lot of big retailers stopped selling the MyPillow products. Lindell is saying that all of that is because of cancel culture. And we know that that's been a challenge for him. And he's been, sponsoring the Trump rallies and the Trump rally broadcasts on Right Side Broadcasting. And I think that those things do generate sales for him, but not, I guess, to the level that he needs. So he's having some financial contraction issues. So Lindell says that the loss of some of these contracts with companies like Walmart, and in particular Walmart, which decided to stop selling the MyPillow products, was a huge blow to him. He lost $100 million, he says, from the attacks on his company by the box stores. He calls them attacks. They're just cancellations. They just decided to stop carrying his products. So he lost deals with Walmart, the various shopping networks online, the shopping channels. And he's saying that's a result of cancel culture. And it's true, man. Like in this political environment, if you have a company that is attached to any kind of politics, you risk being canceled by one half of a potential market. You might do well on one side of the equation because people who believe in a particular political point of view might support you passionately, even almost religiously. But on the other side, you lose a lot. And if you lose distribution, that's a big blow. It's not even just about not having people who want to buy your products, but if you lose distribution through major retail chains like Walmart, doesn't matter, man. You're gonna experience contraction because it's just almost impossible to replace that kind of distribution, even with your own mail order, no matter how much advertising you do, because they just have so many stores. You just put your product front and center in front of people who buy it because it's like right there at their fingertips and they can just pull it off the shelf and pay for it at the cash register. So he's offered to pay, I guess, $5 million to anyone who could prove a store of computer data he had acquired wasn't, in fact, 2020 election data. And then there was all that talk about him, proving his views. He's trying to back up his views on what happened in the election in 2020. And things with that didn't go quite the way that he had planned. But, with all of that kind of stuff, it's all about the control of information, too. So, and evidence. That's why the Ray Epps case kind of ties into this as well. Just saying that, sometimes in this current political environment, it's not cut and dried. Sometimes it's tough to get the truth out, even in court, especially when you have government that is able to control information and even evidence, right? It's not right when the political system becomes politicized, and it's unfortunate that politics plays so prominently in the arena of business these days as well. Boy, if I had a big company, I would do my best to sort of avoid getting my company, associating my company in any way with anything political. It's just too polarizing. You alienate half of your potential customers. Just sell the product. But on the other hand, it can be a very effective marketing strategy if you want to market just to one segment of the population for a while. Anyway, you have very dedicated, loyal customer base, and it's all based on, well, it's largely based on alignment ideologically, people of a similar mindset, right? Anyway, that's what's going on with Mike Lindell. I wish him well. I hope he emerges from that in a healthy position, but it's not a good sign if he's selling off his office equipment in order to try to stay afloat. I don't know. Maybe we need to buy some MyPillow products. I don't know. Hang on. I'll be right back. And then we will start to talk about this: exiling the Knights of Malta.
Exile. The Knights of Malta. Maverick News. Join us. The world is watching.
Okay, so I've decided to embrace it. Choosy, dedicated viewer. Thank you, Choosy. And he called into the program last night, and he's called in, a number of times to talk about the Knights of Malta. And he's not alone, and it's not entirely conspiratorial. There is some basis in fact in what he's talking about. And so I've just decided to just go all in on this, embrace it, start a campaign right here on the Maverick News channel. You guys, you can all get behind it if you want to. I'm just going to start this campaign, and I'm sure Choosy will support it. This is going to, we have to start the Exile the Knights of Malta campaign. They got to go. And why? Well, I've got some information here. I've compiled just a little bit of info so you guys can get some proper perspective on this. All right. So what is this Knights of Malta thing? So it's an intriguing story. And all you have to do is go back to like 2011. Okay. And we already mentioned Seymour Hersh. He's a veteran journalist, has written for prominent, huge publications, including The New Yorker. And back in 2011, he made some startling allegations. This is a very credible journalist, but he made these allegations in a speech and said that the U.S. military's Joint Special Operations Command had allegedly been infiltrated by Christian fanatics with a mission to change mosques into cathedrals. So let's dig a little deeper into this. So Seymour Hersh at the time specifically pointed at former JSOC head General Stanley McChrystal. He later became the U.S. commander in Afghanistan, and his successor, Vice Admiral William McRaven, along with other senior leaders of the command. So Hersh claimed that they are either members or supporters of, you guessed it, the Knights of Malta. But what is this all about? What is it? What's the Knights of Malta? Well, it's important to note that there isn't, well, I think there is evidence to support Hersh's claim that the Knights of Malta are a secretive cabal of, well, I don't know about, well, I guess he was asserting at the time that they were sort of, anti-Muslim fundamentalists? Well, anyway, General McChrystal at the time denied being a member of the Knights of Malta. However, the Knights of Malta do have an unusual presence in international politics, and over the years, they have attracted more than their fair share of conspiracy theories or maybe real theories. There is evidence to back up Choozy's perspective on this, and that's why I've decided to just go with it and embrace it. The Knights of Malta, they got to go. The Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St. John of Jerusalem of Rhodes and of Malta is a Roman Catholic organization headquartered in Rome. They have approximately 13,000 members globally. I looked it up today. Now, Choozy said there were only about 3,500. I think maybe he was referring to numbers in, say, Canada, maybe the United States, maybe both. So I figured, how hard could it be to exile the Knights of Malta if we're only talking about 3,500? Now, if there are 13,000 worldwide, that's a bigger deal. But you break that down, only a fraction of that would actually be present in Canada and the US. And since we live here in North America, I guess that would be our focus, right? Exile them out of Canada, exile them out of the United States. That would be our goal, our stated mission. Exile them. We could maybe branch out and do something globally later, but this group was established, the Knights of Malta, back in 1048. They've been around like forever and a day. And they were established by Amalfian merchants in Jerusalem. Initially, they were a monastic order that operated in a hospital. They provided care to Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land. In addition to their medical duties, the Knights of St. John were also tasked with defending Christians from the local Muslim population. Crusades. During that time, various Christian military orders, including the renowned but now defunct Knights of Templar, were founded. However, when the Sultan of Egypt recaptured Jerusalem in 1291, the Knights of St. John were forced into exile. Dun, 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 dun. So there's precedent for the exiling of Knights of Malta. So let's embrace it. Let's do it again. They eventually settled in Rhodes and later in 1523 were again displaced, this time by the forces of the Sultan. Finally, they found a new home in Malta, where they ruled until Napoleon's army dislodged them in 1798. So ever since then, the Knights of Malta has been based in Rome. Now, contrary to their name, the Knights of Malta haven't had a military function since departing from Malta. They have returned to their charitable roots and currently sponsor medical missions in over 120 countries. Well, we can't have that. Although originally Knights were required to take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, today the standards have been relaxed a little bit. They kind of went a little woke, I guess. So you don't have to remain celibate. Membership only entails obedience. I guess you can still, have a girlfriend. Just saying. So the organization still operates on an invitation-only basis. It no longer exclusively recruits members from nobility, or so they would have us believe. But in recent years, the Knights of Malta have seen an increasing number of American members. They're growing here, folks, and we can't have that either. The leader of the order, referred to as the Prince and Grand Master, is elected for life in a secret conclave. It must be approved by, get this, the Pope. See, Choozy is right. Despite not having a fixed territory besides their headquarters in Rome, the order is considered, get this, a sovereign entity under international law. See, that's what I always wanted. I kept saying, I need my own country. Got to get away from this place. Get me an island someplace and I'll just establish a country and I'll get just other misfits like me to come and live on the island of misfit toys. And that'll be the name of our country, the island of misfit toys, or misfit people. Anyway, the Knights of Malta, they even have their own postage stamps and coins. Now, some people say that those are kind of like collectibles and don't really have much meaning beyond that, but I'm not so sure. The Knights hold observer status at the United Nations, see, globalists, which classifies them as a non-state entity similar to the Red Cross. But I think there's more. They maintain diplomatic relations with 104 countries. Yeah, this is a serious thing. However, it's worth noting that they do not have official relations with the United States. Nevertheless, they have offices in New York. Sounds like a Chinese police station to me. They have offices in New York for their United Nations delegation and in Washington for representation at the Inter-American Development Bank. It's true. So given the order's secretive proceedings, unique political status, and historical association with the Crusades, it has become a favorite target for people like us who just know that they gotta go. Alleged members have included prominent figures such as, get this and tell me that we're wrong, CIA directors William Casey and John McCone. And a guy that I used to like until now, I didn't know this, but Chrysler chairman Lee Iacocca. He's passed away now, but there's talk that he was a Knight of Malta. There are other people too, like well-known GOP figure Pat Buchanan. Yeah, far-right religious figure. Pretty radical, that guy. However, none of these individuals have ever acknowledged their membership. Of course not. It's a secret. But over the years, various theories have linked the Knights of Malta to crimes. And yes, you guessed it again, crimes like the Kennedy assassination. Yeah. So back in 2006, there was an article in a United Arab Emirates newspaper that claimed the Knights were directly influencing U.S. policy in Iraq and Afghanistan, reminiscent of their role in the Crusades. Consequently, Islamists' websites in Egypt called for attacks on the order's embassy in Cairo, which prompted the organization to issue a statement denying any military involvement. Well, you're involved now because they just pulled you into it if you weren't before. Now, it's fair to say that the Knights of Malta have been involved in their fair share of political intrigues. Back in 1988, the charge d'affaires at the Order's embassy in Havana actually admitted publicly to being a double agent, reporting to both the CIA and the Cuban intelligence agency there. And isn't it fitting that we were talking about, Cuba, submarines, Russia, sovereignty, and now the Knights of Malta. So according to some other journalists, including Jeremy Scahill, who wrote the book Blackwater, Joseph Schmitz, a former executive at the company, who also served as Inspector General for the U.S. Department of Defense, boasted about his membership in the Knights in his official biography. So while the defense contractor known as G's chief executive, Eric Prince, reportedly held Christian supremacist beliefs, there's no evidence to suggest that the Knights of Malta directly influenced his company. Now, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of speculation out there and maybe some evidence to support a lot of these assertions. So let's just wrap it up here in the summary. The Knights of Malta. They say today that they're primarily a charitable organization, but they're still attracting attention. Because why? Because they're so secret about everything that they do. And why are they secret? Because they're probably up to stuff. And so historical context and association with the Crusades, you look at it that way, and then you see kind of what they've done in the very recent past. And I think Choozy's maybe got a point. So while the allegations made by Hirsch back in 2011, I guess it was, yeah. So you got those allegations, you know, there's smoke there. Is there fire? Some people say it's not enough, that these guys are harmless. But Hirsch is saying that, you know, these guys are Christian fanatics and that they've influenced and they've infiltrated the U.S. military, including the Joint Special Operations Command. And that is resulting in policies and direction on the part of the U.S. military that people maybe don't understand. So how much weight do we want to put behind this? Well, I don't know. I can only say this. I think there's like a little bit of truth. Here's the website. Let's bring it up. The Order of Malta. What's on their website? What do they do? What do they say? The Order of Malta here. Yep, they have a Grand Master. All that's true. Everything that I said. They have governance. They have a sovereign council, government bodies. Let's take a look at their flag and their emblems. How do you get your own country? I wish we had our own country, and then we wouldn't have to worry about all this stuff. So there's all these different, rich, deep history. And they get involved in aid for refugees, disaster relief and prevention, diseases and epidemics, medical facilities, social assistance, humanitarian diplomacy. But, you know, all of these things, when you look at what they get involved with, I guess you could say, even though they're working as a charity, depending on how you view this stuff, you could say that they're like, you know, involved in politics, international politics. Anytime you get involved in anything these days, I guess it's political. And because this is international and they are their own sovereign entity, I don't even know if I'd call them a state, but as they're recognized as sovereign, means other governments don't have sway over them. And I would think they might even have diplomatic immunity when they're in the United States as or in other countries as well, because they are sovereign. If you're a knight of Malta, you might have diplomatic immunity no matter where you go, which means that a lot of the laws of a land, including the United States and Canada, may not even apply to you. I'm not sure, but that's something that I would definitely want to look into more. Anyway, obviously I'm having a little bit of fun with this tonight, but there is actually some truth to it. And, you know, you can't have these guys out there running around doing a bunch of charity work. And we just can't have it. Anyway, I don't know how much stock to put in all of that. But if Seymour Hersh was raising, you know, ringing an alarm bell back in 2011, I respect him and I respect Choosy, and I think there's probably some truth to it. I don't know how successful our campaign will be in exiling the Knights of Malta. I don't know how much of an actual threat they pose to us. They're a shadowy, organization. But what the heck? Let's just do it. Let's just exile them. Okay, so here's the plan. If you come across a Knight of Malta, or if you know of one, bring it to our attention. And then what we will do is we will peacefully apply pressure here on the program to identify these Knights of Malta, and we'll just have to, I don't know, get a petition going or something. Say we got to exile all these Knights of Malta. Got to get them out of here, and get them out of the country. Where are they going to go? Go live in your own house over there, your Knights of Malta castle. Put them all in there. All 13,000 around the world. Well, 3,500 here domestically, right? How hard could it be? Let's just round them up and say, get the heck out of here, you crazy knights.
Exile. The Knights of Malta. Maverick News. Join us. The world is watching.
So there it is, the official launch of the Exile, the Knights of Malta campaign here in the Maverick universe. The world is watching us, and we are watching the Knights of Malta.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to fire up the phone system. Bear with me while I kind of get things rocking and rolling here.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Too late. Too late. Too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back and phone lines are fired up. You can join the conversation at 1-833-975-3733. You can also support the program, support the channel, keep us on the air, keep the lights on, cover the expenses here, help us by donating at freedomreporters.com, freedomreporters.com, or at maverickdonations.com. Thank you to those of you who have donated. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. It does cost money to run things here, so greatly appreciate the support. This is your platform as much as it is anybody's. Part of what we do here is give you voice. And that's why you're able to call in right now at 1-833-975-3733 and join the conversation live right here on the Maverick News Channel. And we are ready to start taking calls, but I'm going to run another quick promo while the calls start to come in and rack up there, and we get some people in the queue. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so again, call in right now, 1-833-975-3733. Looks like everything is fired up and ready to go. Yeah, phone lines, I think they're open. Yep, everything's working. Just waiting for the calls to start coming in, and I'm sure they will as people get things ready to rock and roll here. I just noticed there is this story about a teen in the US dying. I don't know what the details are, but this young person has died after having a firework explode in his hands. Anyway, just seeing the headline, that's a terrible situation. I've seen people do that, hold a firework in their hand and shoot it off and do stupid things with them. They are really dangerous. Just so dangerous. Yeah, anyway. 1-833-975-3733. Call now, call often. And I'll be right back as we wait for the calls to start pouring in here on the Maverick News Channel tonight.
Fear not the storm. For truth is on our side. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I don't know if the phone lines are functioning properly. There's something strange going on. It's the calls are not stacked up, and the numbers on the session length are freezing and then letting go. Anyway, yeah, call in if you want to join the conversation at 1-833-975. I think it's been acting really weird the last few weeks. takes time for it to actually come online. Normally, in the past, it would just get set up and happen right away, and there's been lag with it. Okay, I think we're starting to get it to come online here now. So let's see what we've got going on. Here we go. And I think it's our main man down in the Southland. Hang on, let me just.
This is King Leonidas of the Knights of Malta calling. I just want you to know, Rick, yeah, we did it. We killed JFK.
Oh man! Well, thank you for finally admitting it.
That's not all. You know the guy from the Wagner group in Russia?
Yeah.
He's with us now.
Oh, this is a scoop. You've heard it. You heard it here first, folks.
This is a big scoop, Rick. That's a big scoop, Rick. This is the biggest scoop of the year. This is a duper scooper.
and I guess you must have some prominent role, and you must be. Are you a long time?
I'm the Grand
Knight.
I'm the Grand Poopa. I'm the Grand Poopa.
Well, now that you've revealed yourself, you know we're going to have to get you exiled.
Where are you going to exile me to, Rick?
That's your problem, man. We're just going to get you kicked out of the country, and I guess you'll have to go all the way back to Rome and live in your little hovel there with the rest of your silly little knights, your Knights of Malta.
Can you exile me to the country of Ottawa?
As far as I'm concerned, man, you can go wherever the hell you want to go. Just stop doing all that Knights of Malta stuff. We don't like it.
You don't like it? Come on, man. You got the Malta South of me, although the plan to master all your disasters coming here, and I am the Grand Poopa of the Knights of Malta, we'll call it today.
Well,
I'm going to have some Maltas. Did I have you guys going or what?
Oh, yeah.
Did you know it was me?
From the beginning.
Yeah, you know the phone number. It's the only guy who's called 265 times in the last 6 months.
That's true. Yeah.
I wanted to check out the phones because you said the phones weren't working. Well, they're working. I'll let the next caller on.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, there's no other callers on here yet. So I don't know.
Fuck, I'm the only loser out there?
Yeah, well, no, you're the jackpot winner tonight. First caller, maybe the only caller. Maybe nobody wants to talk to me. Maybe they're upset with me because I've been, maybe I'm not taking the Knights of Malta seriously enough. I have to say that there is some fact in all of this. Like, it's a real thing. It is.
Well, the Knights of Columbus, the Knights Templar, I know a lot about the Knights Templar. They're pretty organized down in Mexico, and they're a cartel, okay? And they're a flesh-eating cartel. In order to get into the cartel, you got to eat some body parts, buddy. Okay, and they're. It's funny that you did mention the Knights Templar, and they are connected. They're all connected. Knights of Columbus. You know what? People are. I don't know. You cross that line with religion. It's not the same God as I see as everybody else. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It is a little weird. I'll give you that. And it's like a club, I guess. And I mean, on the website, it looks like they do sort of charity work. But if you look at the World Economic Forum, they believe they're doing good too. And then if you look at it from a different perspective, it's like, it's all evil. So it depends on your perspective on these things.
Well, Dennis Johnson said something about the bikers. They do charity work too, right?
That's right.
Everybody does charity work.
Yeah.
Everybody does charity work. Even the South does charity work, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So
that's like the guy in Breaking Bad, that, the television series, the guy who owned all the chicken restaurants. He flew under the radar by, doing charity work and some of it with the cops. So so
you got to be careful. There's that fine line. Look at the Trudeau Foundation. They do lots of charity work.
Yeah.
The We Charity Foundation. They did lots of charity work.
Yeah.
Give me a break. People are using it as a means to make themselves look better at the end of the day. I don't know. Me, I could care less. I'm charity now.
Yeah.
I went from I went from hero to zero, back to hero, down to zero. Here we are. I'm on the Ricky Walker show. I'm just glad you answered. I thought your phones were down. I was going to have a shit connection. I was waiting for Dee to call.
Yeah.
Still waiting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. They got to get her on the show. I thought you were going to put Choosy on tonight, man.
Well, if he calls in, we'll put him on. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Choosy. Yeah, you got an outfit that's 3,500 people strong in the U.S., which is a pimple on my ass, by the way. Not many people in this organization, the Knights of Malta. I've never heard of them until Choosy was talking about them. But when you did mention the Knights Templar, the Knights of Columbus, they're all part of this group, right?
Yeah.
The secret society, the Masons, the Freemasons, and all these clowns out there, right?
Yeah. And Megram is saying that we are deceived, including you and I, because Roman Catholic is not Christian. Read the Bible. I don't know.
Hey, I'm not deceived. I call or whoever commented that. What was her name?
Megram.
Megram. I was born Catholic, not by choice. Okay, I was born Catholic, and I was baptized Catholic. But I don't step into them places, man. I just don't, and neither do my kids. Okay, and there's reasons behind that. If you look at the reasons, the biggest reasons is the pedophilia. Okay, that's been going on in these places, right? My family wasn't big on going to churches. Okay, we weren't big on the Sunday going to churches. None of that shit. And I'm really glad that they didn't put me into that predicament. I'm not saying all religions are like that.
Yeah.
But the Catholics, look what they've done, right? And look at what they continue to do. It makes me sick to even call myself a Catholic, right? You'll never see me. You'll see me. I got married in a Catholic church last year, and I said I'm not going to the reception, or I'll go to the reception, but I'm not going to the wedding. He goes, why? I said, I'll step foot in them places. I just don't.
Yep.
Makes my blood boil, right? That's like stepping into Parliament. I'm not stepping into Parliament. It makes my blood boil.
Yeah, well, I've covered a lot of stories about pedophile priests. Here in Chatham, I covered a story that the people, adults now, they successfully had a lawsuit and they got damages awarded from the church, and they used to call the priest of that church Father Feeler. It's a real thing, serious problem. Still
Father Feeler, what a name.
Yeah.
What a name.
Yeah.
Susan
wants to know if I've ever heard of John. If I heard from John, yeah, Susan, I do get emails from John regularly.
Okay,
and
good.
I wish he would call in again, start to call in. I miss him. Good guy.
Yeah, you know what? When people go missing off the radar, all of a sudden, okay, there's concern. If you don't hear from the mouth of the South in a week, get those bells ringing, okay? Because something's happened to the North. Either I'm sitting in a prison cell, or something bad's happened, right? So, because I don't go silent, I don't ghost people, right? But John, I'm glad you heard from him, because I was saying the same thing tonight. Where's Johnny been?
Yeah, I hear from him several times.
He was here. I wonder if he's playing the horses down at that new casino they built in Toronto. Did you see that one?
I really haven't. I haven't taken a look at it. No, that's his thing,
No,
man.
Well, hey, to each his own, right? Everybody's got whatever makes you feel good. You want to play lottery tickets? It's not. I'm kicked out of Caesars for good reasons, because they like to wear diapers there on their face, and I told them all to fuck off one night because they're diaper wearers. And next thing you know, 3 days later, I get the boot.
Are you permanently banned from the place?
Yeah, it's funny. And it's funny, really funny, Rick, because 3 days after, well, first the security, they said, you got to leave the concert. I said, yeah, whatever. Told them all to fuck off, right? Diaper wearers. You got to leave. Okay, well, I had a room, so I went up to the room. I had a beer, and then I went downstairs, played some slots, went to the bar, had another beer, played some more slots, went to my room, slept, left the next day. 3 days later, I get registered mail saying I get a lifetime ban from the casino. I said, for what? I called him. I said, for what? We don't have to tell you for what. I said, well, you know what? You did me a favor. How's that sound? I don't have to come to your stinking casino. Okay. So they don't have to tell you. They just give you a lifetime ban. But I can appeal it after 6 months. And I told my wife, you know, I'm not appealing it. I'll stay banned. If I want to go to a casino, I'll go to Toronto. I'll go to Niagara. Right. I'll even go to Chatham. I've even been to the Chatham casino before. Right. That's only down the highway. So if there's a poker tournament,
I've been in the Chatham casino. I drive by it, but I've never been in it.
Right. I've never been in it either. That's the old Wheels Inn, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been to Wheels Inn, but it's been a casino now for years, and I still haven't been there, right? So if there's the only game I enjoy is poker. Okay, and if there's poker tournaments I want to register into, I'll get into a poker game. But the blackjack and craps and all that crap, it's not my cup of tea. Even the one-armed bandits, I'm not into it. You know, I find my luck a lot better playing poker amongst everybody in the poker table, right? So, yeah, which is seldom, right? Seldom it is, but I'll be back. Don't you worry. You got any more callers? Or you still want to hear my shit?
No, we've got some stacked up here now, so we'll move on, I guess. Thank you, Leo.
Stack them and crack them. Good night.
Okay. All right, let's go to Note next. Hello.
Hey, Rick.
Hi.
Hi. I was getting worried for you, so I thought I'd call. I wasn't planning to, but Leo beat me, so
that's okay. Thank you.
I can't say I have a heck of a lot to say. I'm very low on energy today, but just a couple of things. I don't know if you saw the swearing in of Olivia Chow.
Oh, I
what
did.
A fiasco that was.
I did.
Was that not cringeworthy?
Yes.
Like, oh my good God. We've come to more like even lower lows. Yeah. Like what the ever loving, like that shit should not be allowed. So unprofessional and so just high school. I mean, it's like she won a sorority contest or something. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Anyways, that just got under my skin.
Here, I'll play it for people.
I don't know
I have it queued up. Let me get it on the screen here.
Oh God, it's so cringeworthy. It's just pathetic.
It is. It's here we go.
I can hear it, unfortunately.
Oops. Here we go.
Oh.
I'll let her roll again so you can see the beginning. So she wins the mayor's race. She's the new mayor, and then she has these people come out and sing. I don't know what group that is. Do you know anything about it?
I don't know who they are. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
so
whoever keeps
what gives her like special privilege to turn this meeting into a giant celebration of her electoral victory? You do this at your campaign victory party thing, you know, like
not in the Senate or in the Parliament. It's just embarrassing.
Chambers. You know, that's not where you
it's utterly embarrassing.
Well,
exactly. It's just we sunk to yet another low that I never thought we'd go, but you know, I think the trap door is open and it's never going to close at this point.
Woke. They're woke.
Beyond woke. Yeah. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. And speaking of embarrassing, like Trudeau prancing around with the two females on either side of him, you know, meeting with Zelensky and all of that. It's embarrassing and it's painful. I mean, the world is laughing at us beyond belief. And if anyone believes that actual Canadians is behind all this BS, they really have their head in the sand, because how could we even? Like, most people now, you know, realize what this so-called war is all about and all of that. And it's just, it hurts so much to even just have to hear him or see him or them. Jolie on CNN, like now we got Parliament on CNN, like what the ever loving, oh, you know?
And did you see that he showed up late for the session yesterday?
Yeah, to top it all off, like some kind of, you know, drunken rock star.
Yeah.
In his fancy socks. I mean, they're just embarrassing us to no end. It's just, my good God, what next, right? And yeah, and Leo comment about the Catholic Church. Leo, I'm 150% behind you on that one. I was born into it, and because of that church, I lost my mom to suicide. So, yeah, not a fan. Don't go around telling everyone I was born into the Catholic faith. As a rule, 100%, I know exactly what Leo is talking about there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I understand too.
Yeah. I mean, that's another trap door that opened that I don't think is ever going to close. I think it's all, you know, out and there and real, and yeah, there's more to come, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure. And, you know, thank God, Italy, I want to seek asylum in Italy, by the way, because they're the only people so far smart enough to ban fake meat.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, they banned fake meat, but here we are, Canada, US, because they desperately want us dead or dying or sick and putting money into their pockets. They're not banning it, but Italy has. So I'd like to seek asylum, please. How do I do that?
I don't know, but I'm not eating the stuff because it's just not natural, man. Just not natural.
It shouldn't even be allowed. It's like that shows how incredibly corrupt our systems are from top to bottom and every side. They got us coming and going, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm just
So,
checking messages.
and then I don't know. Oh, okay. I saw a video, and I haven't validated or anything, but it caught my attention of in France, they're saying after a violent storm, heavy rains, that they're seeing graphene oxide found floating around in the puddle. Have you seen that?
Sorry, what was that? What kind of what? In puddles?
Graphene oxide floating in puddles in France. I don't know how valid that is.
I'm not putting any stock in that one.
Yeah, that just kind of like made me go, yeah, I don't know about that. But anyways, amazing that the stuff that's flying around, though, right? Amazing. But what else was there?
That's a bit of a reach, that one. Sorry.
I think it could be. Yeah. No, I'm not saying it was. I was just saying, have you seen that one flying around?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that one. No, I'm not buying that.
And
that sounds like a Stu Peters thing to me.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway.
But you know what? Every time Trudeau opens his mouth and he mentions democracy, doesn't that make your skin crawl?
Well, he's a hypocrite. He's
big time.
Yeah, it's just
at every turn. And here, he's getting out an awful lot all of a sudden, is he not? He's flying all over the darn place, making appearances everywhere.
Always has.
You know,
sitting there always goes with a generous donation of some kind and more money to spend in other countries. Yep. Meanwhile,
exactly.
We're hearing today from economists and human rights activists, even, and homeless advocates, saying that it's because of the immigration that we have such a serious homeless problem in the country. People actually living on the streets, and he's out there, spending our money, giving our money away all around the world.
Exactly. And then his yammering about and trying to sound all serious and compassionate, which made me gag. Saying, yes, we realize that Canadians they're suffering and, there's blah, blah, blah. And then he's trying to, again, tout themselves as a hero with his grocery rebate. Yeah. I mean, does he actually know how much groceries even friggin' cost? That
Yeah,
little
when
rebate
it's
ain't
his,
gonna help
when
for
it's
even
his,
a
like
month.
a pound of butter for his airplane ride out to wherever, like just whatever, $1,000 for this and probably $10,000 for that.
Yeah,
They overpay for everything on
right?
that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just insanity, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that it. But on we go. The show carries on somehow. It's
And it is
amazing.
a show.
I'm starting to. Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, it seems like we're watching a movie. It's a very bad one at our expense, but yeah. There you
Yes,
go.
that's right.
Anyways, with that, I want to wish everyone a happy hump day and take care of each other and carry on.
All right, thank you. Note. All right. And
Alrighty.
I think we have the guest of honor tonight himself, I think. Go ahead, sir. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Knights of Malta.
Hey, Rick.
How you doing?
Now you're here. Now you're gone. Now you're back where you belong. And that's my answer for Leo's rap. Yeah. Oh, we don't have to blame innocent and abused Catholicism. You know, you're welcome to participate or not participate. But and I understand how people could be upset. There was an incident in Buffalo, New York, where retired police detectives came forward in droves, saying that while they were active, they had standing orders to stand down on Catholic pedophile priests, but not other denominations, which is, that's disconcerting, but it's all smokescreen anyway, because inducted criminal organization is just that. It's not religious.
Yep.
And so we got to keep all of that separate. Otherwise, we're just, succumbing to a shocked rat syndrome, acting confused and blaming each other and possibly innocent people for what is intentionally perpetrated criminal organization and alliance.
So, Chusey, let's just backtrack here a little bit, because people tuning in tonight, maybe for the first time, don't know that you're the reason we're even talking about the Knights of Malta tonight, and it's because you're kind of dialed into this issue or this organization, I guess. What is it that first got you concerned about the Knights of Malta?
Well, their immunity. That's the key to everything. All right. That's the real purpose of their organization. It's to spread around that immunity, which is the breadth of criminal organization. If they can't get away with it, then it doesn't exist.
So when you say immunity, that's what I was referring to. Like when they have an office in New York and they're considered a sovereign entity, if not a nation state, like a mini nation state, but they're treated like a nation state as a sovereign entity. And any, diplomat that goes to the United Nations in New York City, and even when you're visiting other countries, if you're from a sovereign entity in this case, you have diplomatic immunity if you're considered to be a diplomat. And that means that the laws of whatever country you're in at that time may not necessarily apply to you, which means you get immunity from a lot of things, and maybe even under certain international laws, because the law does not apply equally to people across the board, even nationally or internationally, because it applies differently to diplomats. That's what they refer to as diplomatic immunity. Is that what is there an element of that in what you're talking about?
Certainly, that's one aspect of it, but deeper than that is the fact that they can't be charged or sentenced with anything. And what we're overlooking is it's not a matter of a foreign person coming into this country, they're inducted within nations and then considered to be from a fictitious landless nation at that point, which is just all bullshit. It's all bullshit, you know? And so, yeah, it's that immunity that's the key to understanding and unraveling the whole problem.
So because they're
because
from this
it's
sort of weird sovereign entity, they're immune from charges under different kinds of laws. They can get away with a lot of criminal activity, even theoretically.
right. And the way that they absolutely do. And that's the reason why we see, like, you know, Rand Paul tough talking Fauci or Elizabeth Warren tough talking Wall Street or whatever. Nothing ever happens. It's just because, you know, no branch of government alone or combined has the authority to charge or sentence these people, which is mind-boggling.
So, like
But,
back in 2011,
yeah,
which I referred to, when a journalist like Seymour Hersh raises concerns about people that he believes, and there is evidence to maybe suggest that they are actually members of the Knights of Malta, and they're in prominent positions in government or in the military or in the intelligence communities, that they might have that their loyalties to the U.S. government or the Canadian government or other governments might not be in the best. You know, their heart, they might have a different agenda that might not properly serve the people.
absolutely, sir. But here's the thing: the way the rules are, they're precluded from the military. They're forbidden to be members of Roman loyal secret society in the military. So if General Milley is, you know, offering a flowery description of the Jesuit order, then that's disconcerting. But he's just one person. Theoretically, the officers and ranks are forbidden from those secret societies. So, but other than them and uniformed public servants who are also forbidden, like you wouldn't want your police to be members of secret society. And, but that leaves every other branch of government institutions, academia, medicine, everything wide open, all sectors dominated by these Knights of Malta. All right. And there's dames also, you know, there's like dames of Malta in the, you know, in high up places that you'd be surprised, like in the military industrial complex, pulling in, you know, big, sweet, multi-million-dollar bonuses every year and whatnot, you know. So,
so what do you think? What is it that they're trying to achieve, or what is their, you know, what's their ideology, or why do we need to be concerned about them? What are they doing that's bad?
But, well, their number one goal is obstruction of justice for themselves. And they're a tiny club, like, you know, George Carlin, that thing about it being a big club.
We're not in it. Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, that was for intimidation. It's not a big club. It's a tiny club. It's like the worm in a gallon of mezcal, you know. And so, but what was the question again?
Well,
Now
what
I
is
got
it that they're doing
distracted
that's
with the
so
mezcal.
bad that we need to really be concerned about them? Are they influencing
Oh, yeah,
international
they're-
policies, or like what is it?
They're dominating all sectors, deep state and beyond, but their intention is horrible. They have no good end plan, and they're obstructing justice for everything that they've done. They've deceived us. They've lied to us. They're habitual lying, malignant narcissist hive mind. And now that they've been caught, they planned for this time, centuries in advance, that they'd be caught, that their smoke screens would evaporate. And their plan is, you know, as the saying goes, it's easier to kill 1 million people than to control them or whatever. Somebody said that. They basically, you know, that's their end of times plan. The Jesuits' end of times plan is all about obstruction so that the inducted Romans march on into the next 1,000 years without us. You know, and that's not right. That's not evolution. That's just evil shit. And it's not justifiable. All of their authority and immunity is based upon provable lies. You know, for one thing, you know, that they hold the key to heaven or hell for people. Reincarnation is real and karma is a real thing, and they don't control it. If anything, they're the ones messing it up. So, you know, that's it, it's the end of times plan. It's Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini. You can find that online in PDF.
Mm-hmm.
Mazzini, Mazzini. And he, you know, Albert Pike, that letter was 1871, which was the same year as the Organic Act of 1871, which dissolved the American sovereign republic and placed us as a corporation under British, therefore Roman control. It was just an act of pen thievery, and it doesn't make it right what they did. They got their minions into the places to write that stuff up and to, you know, claim that we're all their slaves. And that would be fine if they were actual stewards, but they're not. They're not doing stewardship, taking our money and claiming that they're protecting us and then turning around and waging war on us is not stewardship. And it's not healthcare to do this sneaky stuff. And it's a medical inquisition and then claim that we should pay for that. You know, it's insanity. Everything is inverted, and like they've stated, that was their goal. Some famous person, when everything that the American people believe is a lie, then we have succeeded. Some intelligence person said that, Casey or something, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And they also stated that they want to turn the blue sky white. And they've done that. And it all needs to stop. We need to stop the lies and get the blue sky back. And the way we're going to do that is with convened military tribunal, higher authority. It's what worked in Portugal, and that's the only historical, constitutional, legal precedent that we require. We can cite that and turn to our standing military and say, hey, General Milley, we don't like the way you're describing this Jesuit order fascism, and we want open to the public military tribunals, and we're going to munch popcorn and watch the secrets of the occult unfold on YouTube or wherever we want.
Well,
you know?
When I hear people don't usually start to talk about things like military tribunals,
well, nobody has to get hurt.
No,
that's the thing. Yeah. People hear the phrase military tribunals and they freak because they're picturing gallows.
Well,
and
no, it's not that so much. It's just like under what jurisdiction, under what law, and this whole idea that, you know, our governments are not legitimate because they're just corporations and blah 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 blah. Well, you know.
Well, no, I understand that it's supposed to be a structure of stewardship. And it would be if we had fair constitutions with some kind of central global entity, but it's all a hoax. That's not what's going on. And not only are all of our nations co-opted and corrupted by inducted Rome, but the Knights of Malta, who are imposing the oppression, have a very cushy constitution with Rome that was just renegotiated. Remember how Francis announced, "Oh, we're calling in all Vatican assets." That was in the end of August last year, and Rome is calling in.
But look, like, what are you gonna do? What do you see? You've got these guys who wear their black robes. They get, they're part of this bizarre organization which is based in Rome. You have, through history, even people like Lee Iacocca, who was the head of Chrysler Corporation. Okay, so he was a Knight of Malta. What do you like? Then you talk about tribunals. What do you want to do? You want to round them all up and put them all on trial? Where? In the United States, in Canada, in some other country? You go over to Rome? Where are you going to do it?
I'm not, Rick, we have good mountain range of evidence that they're all in cahoots.
Yeah.
But I don't claim to have personal proof of that. What we need is some kind of military tribunal triage where the military standing legal justice system steps up and puts them through some kind of triage purpose to figure out which billionaires are evil bastards and which
when
ones
you say
aren't.
military tribunal, which military?
Well, in the U.S., it would be the U.S. military. In Canada,
So
it would be your
to
Canadian.
convene a military tribunal using the United States military, you need to be using the U.S. legal system.
No, it supersedes all of that because the U.S. legal justice system is broken. That's all. Like I said, there's no preclusion
So you want to use some sort
from
of
secret
international
society.
law to try to hold these guys to account and put them on trial? Yeah, and employ the U.S. military I don't understand what you want to do. How does that work?
The military takes control, but with good intention. It's not a coup, because a coup is when fascism assumes power. And, that's not the intention. The intention is for it to be peaceful and legal. And you need a higher authority than all of this deception and manipulation system.
Well, if you're talking about
that's
a situation like that, you're talking about the military taking control and essentially imposing a form of martial law.
No, it's not a coup. It's not a coup, and it's not martial law.
Well, then what, the
because
president
it's all
remains
about
in power, the government
intention.
structure remains there, and you're talking about, I don't understand how that works.
No, the military just takes control to prevent a vacuum of power, and with the intention to reconstitute a representative civilian government. It's not a coup because see, that's where we get into the sticky, brass tacks of definition.
If you have the military taking power away from a president or a prime minister or a government and asserting its authority to conduct some sort of a trial or whatever it is, and they're in control, I don't care how you describe it, that's a freaking coup.
Well, it's military tribunals. They have a definition already. And we have it's not uncharted territory, Rick. And this is where it's important to remember that what I'm suggesting is not delusion. This is actually the proven solution.
And what gives
All
the
right, we
U.S.
have
military the jurisdiction and authority to engage in this kind of activity? Who gives them the right to do that?
they just have to make up their minds to do it. They unite
So
cohesively and
basically,
by
what gives them the authority is the guns and the weapons that they have, so they have the ability to do
well,
it.
yeah, and that, yeah, that's. I mean, ultimately, it's the
That's not
horrible
democracy.
weaponry. But yeah, but neither is what we have, Rick, and it's not going towards any good end. It's not a matter
Well, you
of
could argue
fighting,
that,
Rick.
but
It's
I'm
about
not so sure that what you're describing is desirable at all. I don't want the military just
well,
asserting authority and deciding to
yeah,
convene tribunals and put people on trial without the, without the honestly the social contract that comes with the whatever form of democracy we have right now with the public, where the public basically is there in support. It's the people's support of government that allows it to continue to exist in our society. And if you do an end run around that with the military,
so
then they're
you're
they're
basically
circumventing the
saying,
will of the
Rick,
people at that point.
Rick, basically what you're saying is that we're stuck in a hostage situation, and you don't want the cavalry to come.
No, I just don't think that it's right for the military to take over and just declare itself the ruler at any time. The military should be there to
You're
serve and
entitled.
protect, but they need to be taking direction from government which takes its authority from the people.
You're entitled to have your fear of the military, but did you actually look
Right.
at what happened in Portugal, 1974?
Don't care.
Maybe we
You
should
just-
look at that.
Well, you can do that, but I don't want the military just taking control of everything and putting a bunch of people on trial. And
So do you believe? So do you believe in the proven impossibility of political solution? Do you have a better idea?
well, if you have people who are in jobs, positions of power, who have motives and objectives that don't serve the people, and they're there for ulterior motives, then we need to sniff them out and expose them and force them from their positions. There are mechanisms in place to do that, but as I've stated here many times, I think that
How do
rules
you
are
mean that
maybe
there's
need to be
mechanisms?
fair in that regard, especially when it's bureaucrats and politicians. We certainly need more transparency, and that means forcing them to open up the information on their bank accounts and find out exactly where the money is flowing. I think that's a key part of it. And if they have membership in these other organizations, there's probably lobbying and legislative change that is required to make sure that there are rules in place to address those kinds of conflicts of interest, which honestly there are
Well,
already. But if you're hiding your membership in an organization like that, then it might be hard to sniff that out and expose it. But if you have a conflict of interest like that, then that absolutely is something that you can be held accountable for if it can be exposed already. So I think the system is there.
Rick, there's a registry. Rick, there's a registry of these knights and dames of Malta somewhere. It's not like it's undiscoverable.
Sure, so let's find it. And
If they're
issues, then let's get that exposed.
if they're so proud of what they're doing, then why do they remain anonymous and have to hide behind all these lies and fluff?
Sure, well, let's get it out there. Let's get some transparency. Let's expose it if we can.
Yeah,
Find out who
that's
they
what
are.
I'm saying. And instead of people lining up at Parliament Hill, expose that Ottawa Knights of Malta headquarters. What's the harm in it? As long as it's done responsibly, I'm all for it.
Sure.
I don't want people messing it up. But let's get some light on the subject and give them a chance to show themselves.
See, well, there's
and Rick,
Seymour
I'm
Hirsch
not-
back in 2011, blowing the
Rick,
whistle on a
Rick,
few of these
Rick,
guys
I had
already,
no-
right? So that's good.
Rick, I had no interest in joining the Cub Scouts as a kid. I don't have any interest. I'm not a uniform worshiper. I'm not interested in having the military run the country. What happened in military coming to the rescue legally? You know, and it was the wives of the officers over there who put their feet down. They were having their students at the university hauled away for no good reason, and they put their feet down and they stopped the procrastination. And you know, the intention of peaceful revolution is expressed up front, and it's tangible.
Well,
it's not, you know,
there's
it's
there's a
nothing to
divide
fear.
there's the Grand Canyon between yourself and myself, I guess, because you just are you saying that you want some sort of a revolution? Because I'm saying let's hold these guys legally accountable using the system we have in place, and I think there are mechanisms that we
I
have that we can
don't
do that. But
know.
you're
I
talking
don't.
about what, a revolution?
Yeah, because I think that you're still fundamentally in denial of a proven historical principle. It's a solid principle that no
Well,
branch
my
of
friend, there's
government
no bloody
alone
way
or
I'm going to
combined.
sit here
I mean, you're
and
saying
support. There's no
Rick,
way I'm going to support
Rick,
any
you're
call to just
saying that
hand over
there's
power
checks
to the
and
freaking military.
balances. Yeah, but you're saying that there's checks and balances, and I'm telling you, no, there's not. There's no branch of government that has the authority to charge the inducted immune. You tell me where is these checks and balances, and where have they been?
Even diplomats with diplomatic immunity can be expelled from a country. You can exile them, you can get them out,
Yeah, but they
and
go
you
back to
don't need to
their
give them
home
positions of
country.
power. And in
They go
addition to
back
that,
to their home country.
these Knights of Malta, who even if they have membership, they're still in I think every instance we've been citing here, they're either U.S. or Canadian citizens, and as such, they are under those conditions subject to the rules and the laws of the land, the rule of law, and they still come under the criminal code.
No,
And
that's not the way it works.
in any event,
That's not the way
you
it
can
works.
always kick them out of the country. You can do that.
Yeah, well, that's what we need to do. We need to kick people who are in this country, who were born in this country, who got mixed up with these Knights of Malta at some point in their lives, and you know, and they got invited into the club that prints their own passports in diplomatic international immunity, and that's what it's all about. Because then they can be inside trading, warmongers on innocence, and everybody thinks that's cool and okay. Yeah, no, I don't.
And they're not just in the United States, though. They're in other countries. They're all over the world.
Yeah, they are. There's one nation that they're not in, Bhutan. Bhutan doesn't have a cardinal assigned, and therefore no inducted Knights and Dames of Malta that we know of, and it's a magically happy place.
But that's also why this approach that you're advocating for, this revolution, that would not work either, because they are all over the world. What are you going to do? You got to have a worldwide revolution where all the military?
No, well,
does the U.S. military go around and just assert its, self-declared authority to go around and start, holding military tribunals globally?
Yeah, that's a valid question and a logical conclusion. Yes, we need peaceful revolution Olympics. The more nations that break the noose with Rome, the less people they have to manipulate and deceive. It's all about deception and manipulation. Remember, their authority and immunity is all based on lies. And we need all the nations to get off the chain and just say no to these people. They've come into our country. They've inducted our leadership. They've co-opted our central national banks. They've set up a corrupt world central banking system that our corrupted national central banks that are run in perpetual deficit have to borrow from. It's all debt slavery.
This is all the Knights of Malta running all of this?
Yes.
In your
yes,
view?
Yes, they're 1,000-year-old organization. They're older than the Jesuit order itself. And they founded all
can
of
you
the
show me some
intelligence
documentation or send me
agencies.
some information that, absolutely ties this together in a really concrete way?
Well, it's more a matter of logic, Rick. We're doing that. I mean, I'm not the most internet savvy person. I have my phone and my tablet,
Well,
and I do what I do on
I want to deal in
YouTube. But
facts here, right? So if
they
we're going to
are
say that this
facts. Everything I
organization
told
controls
you,
the banking system, the financial system, Wall
you
Street,
can look
money
up.
supply, government, all of these,
Yeah,
we've got what 30,
if
like
you
there's
look
got to be a
up,
paper trail or documentation to show exactly how this is all working. I mean, there's
I'll tell you how it works, Rick. You start with one alphabet agency. Let's take the CIA or the FBI or any of them. You go online and you look into the founding of the organization and you look at who founded it, and then you tie that person or persons with the Knights of Malta, and that's how it's done.
yeah. Well, we'll
Okay,
need the
and you can
membership
do
list,
that
and then we
with
can
every
find out where
single.
they're
You
where
can
they're
do
working.
that. You can do that with, you can infer that and do that with all of the agencies, not just nationally, but globally. The UN is comprised of ambassadors that are highly likely to be inducted Knights or Dames of Malta, and the Knights and Dames of Malta with their fictitious nation have a seat at the table, an important seat. So, and then there's the IMF, the WEF, all of that stuff is just more Knights of Malta redundancy, Rick. I wouldn't get on the phone and tell that to the world without it being certain. Okay, you can verify that. You're the journalist. You're the one that has all of that expertise.
But you're the, but
I
hey,
leave it
look,
to
I'm
you.
going to do more work on this. I know that there's like a basis in fact in some of this stuff, but how far does it go? How much influence do they really have? What's really accurate? There's also perspective. I don't want to engage just in speculation, and I sure as hell, Choosy, do not want to encourage the military to start taking over, to run military tribunals for a bunch of people that we're not working in the shadows, and we don't even have a full list or knowledge of exactly who they even are.
Well, that's self-incriminating in itself. If they're so, you have to be courageous. Some people are afraid to go to the Google search box and ask questions about the Knights of Malta, and I can relate to that. They're worried about their families. They're worried about their livelihoods. They're worried about who's watching. But if you do that, you come up with facts. There's 3,500 inducted within the USA alone.
Yeah.
Out of 13,500 globally.
Yeah. So here,
and another interesting.
I've got a list. I've got a list. I've already found one.
Oh, good.
So
yeah, and you can look up their headquarters location in North America on Google Map and all of that, and the interesting thing is that Canada doesn't want to talk about its Knights and Dames of Malta a whole lot. They don't want to even give you a number of how many you got. Yeah. So isn't that kind of, get your curiosity going?
Okay, so I mean, this is all fine. We have a list here that we would need to verify. But then we need to, I'm sorry, but you got to go through a process. You can't just, go to Wikipedia like I've just done here, take a list, and then just start arresting people and calling them before a military tribunal. They have to have done something wrong or illegal, and then you need to hold
Rick, you got to do a little doot-doot.
What's
you
that?
got to do a little doot-doot with the weed. You got to do a little doot-doot with the weed and then watch the patterns emerge. For instance, yeah.
Okay.
For For instance, they just happen to be all the top billionaires and
Yeah.
millionaires.
Well, it's a club.
Okay, yeah,
It's a club.
yeah,
No question about it. It's a club.
yeah.
I get it. But you
And-
can't just start throwing people in jail just because they belong to a club. They
No,
have to have
I'm
done
not
something wrong.
suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that. And,
Yeah.
and the Knights of Malta are the last ones that are going to get thrown in jail. The absolute worst we can do with them is repossess everything they have and exile them. And that's the worst. That's the worst we can do. So we need to be realistic about that. And a lot of people would say that I'm a bore for even suggesting that because they don't think that's a sensationalistic enough finish to this.
Yeah.
And but I say that's the good compromise. That's the good compromise because then we're still adhering to the legal code of the rest of the world. We're honoring their stinking knights and dames of Malta and according to the rules.
Yeah.
But we're also not taking any crap either. We're saying no to Sosa's end of times.
Yeah.
So he came over to Canada, declared it a Jesuit province 4 years ago, uncoincidentally, and then all hell breaks loose.
So can we just agree on this? Because I don't want to. I in no way do I want to sit here tonight and say that I want a military anything. Okay, but how about this? Can we agree to this level that we should do more work to figure out who these people are? We should do more work to find out what they might have done that might have been a bad thing. And where appropriate, push for accountability by having them exiled out of the country if they have been engaging in activity that is in conflict of interest in their positions and not in the best interests of the people, and possibly and anything that's been criminal in nature. And work toward getting them exiled that way. Can we agree to that level? Now, you might still want some sort of a military tribunal, but we can maybe discuss a path forward or a method to achieve that end at a later time. But it's coming up on 9 o'clock. Can we just kind of leave it at that level and say that more discussion is needed?
Rick, I'm ecstatic about your interest in all of this already. You've already made me a happy person. I'm very proud of you. And yes, all right, I'm an open book with this. All right. It's the opposite of the Manhattan Project. We're not hiding anything. Okay. And thanks for your time, sir.
Hey,
and
thank you.
everybody
Choosey. You
else.
know what?
donate.
Like there is, like I said, there's some real facts here. There's a foundation of truth. The question is, what's the right way to deal with it, and at what level, and how serious is this? We need more information, is what I'm saying. So let's get more information and find out what we really need, what really needs to happen based on facts and real information, and let's do some more work on this and explore it more.
Okay.
Cool.
I really am. I'm eternally grateful for your thoughts and intentions on that. All right, and I wish everybody a lot of love and luck and comfort in the process that's unfolding. All right.
All right, you're a good man and deserved of the knighthood that we bestowed upon you here. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I didn't take it lightly, and I won't. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, thanks, Choosey. We'll talk again more later. Take care.
Thanks, Rick. Good night.
There you have it. How was that? So that gets us to 9 p.m. And yeah, we'll close that off, and we'll close this off. The phones are now closed, and we'll take this down. And I got to thank all of you for hanging in there. And that was kind of a cool conversation. And we can do more work in that regard and see where that takes us. Thank you, Choosy. That was a great conversation. And maybe we need to talk to Seymour Hersh. She's already done some work in this area as a journalist. So maybe we'll talk to him or the guy. There must be other people who have already done a lot of the legwork in this area. So maybe we can expedite the process by talking to some other people who are more knowledgeable on the subject than I am, and accelerate the process. We'll see where it goes from here. The Knights of Malta. But thank you. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow night, I think, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I keep saying I might take a day off. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. If I'm not here, it's just because I'm taking a day off and I'm getting some other stuff ready. I've actually figured out a way to get back on Facebook and not get kicked off again for the reasons that they've said for kicking us off this time. We're on partially, but I need to make a bunch of production changes here, and that's going to take some work that I won't go into here at the moment, but I think I've found the solution to dealing with the strikes that they kept applying to the pages and our account until eventually we've been sort of booted off Facebook partially. We're half on, half off. It's kind of a weird situation. Gonna need some time though. So anyway, thank you everybody. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Support the channel at maverickdonations.com or freedomreporters.com. And if you do subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already over on Rumble. That's where we need to take people mostly. We'll be back, like I said, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Oh, yes, I will be back for sure. Because Scott Ritter, former UN weapons inspector and Russia's ambassador to the United Nations, Dmitry Polyansky, will be here with Lori and myself for a roundtable discussion on everything going on in Ukraine and internationally, and analysis of what came out of that NATO summit over the past 2 days. So really looking forward to that tomorrow evening right here on the Maverick News Channel. Catch everybody back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.